Hey, can you hear me? Is this any better?
It's way better.
Hey, all right.
And they all said it was you, Brian, not me. It was Brian with a Y, not
Oh,
Brian with an I that had a problem.
all right. Cool.
So, Brian, welcome to Chocolatier Chat on this fun-filled Friday afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm sorry in advance for everybody who's wasting this beautiful afternoon listening to us ramble on about chocolate.
No, see, they're not wasting their wonderful afternoon. They're learning and they're growing and
Uh-huh.
they're sharing with us. So,
Cool. Well, I'm happy we finally.
yeah. So, you agreed with a little poking and prodding, and I had to elicit the name Peter Grueling. Like I had to pull the Peter Grueling card out, and I don't do that
Yeah,
very often. But he said you needed to come and talk to me about everything about fruition chocolate.
yeah. He did the same to me. So, usually when he says something, I have to listen.
Yeah, he didn't want to do it either, though. In his defense, like I had to poke and prod him for
Oh,
like a
I'm,
month.
probably more so than with me.
Yeah, you agreed. You just ignored me for 5 weeks. So
Yeah.
so for those that don't know, you are a bean to bar chocolate maker in the Hudson Valley, and the company's name is Fruition. But you have not always been a bean to bar chocolate maker.
No, no. I started out when I was a teenager working in a restaurant around here. Started working in the pastry department, and I kind of went a little bit backwards as far as my education. I started working in a restaurant, working in the pastry department when I was 16. And growing up around here, I always we're really close to the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America. And as a kid, I always really, really wanted to go there, but financially, it was kind of out of reach for me, sort of straight out of high school. So I got some of my like real world experience, and then in my mid 20s, I was able to finally go get my formal education at the CIA. At the time, I didn't really know if I was going to focus on chocolate or pastry or bread or what. But through a series of events and interactions, I kind of fell in love with chocolate, and then we wound up starting the
But
business.
but you did the pastry program at the
I did,
CIA. You didn't do
yeah.
like those crazy hot food, cut the head off fish guys.
No, no. I have an associate's degree in baking and pastry arts from the CIA.
Got it. And it is a beautiful place.
It
I got to be
is,
honest with you. Like, I mean, every building's named after like a food company.
yeah,
You
true,
know, like the Sorrento Cheese Cafeteria. Though I
yeah.
don't really. Is there a Sorrento Cheese Cafeteria? I don't think there is.
I don't know.
Oh,
No, I mean, for me growing up around here, seeing this like castle-like building on the banks of the Hudson River, like, it was like me as a kid, it was like this magical thing. Like this is a college you can go to and learn how to cook or bake or something. So I always really wanted to go.
do you think that doing real world experience first was good? I mean, was that good for you? I mean, was it? Do you think it would be good for everybody? I mean, I don't want. I mean, that's obviously not a CIA like plug video. If you should go out and work for a while. But for you, did it work?
For me, it worked. I think I got so much more out of the program by having some like baseline knowledge of baking, pastry, food sanitation, like how to work in a kitchen. Um, so without having to focus on like the absolute like bare bones basics of things, I think I was able to get a lot more out of the program. So yeah, I mean for me it definitely worked.
Yeah, I went back to culinary school when I was 30, right? And I worked in the industry for a long time and kind of knew where I wanted to be. And I always tell the story like I think we were like 3 weeks into the program and we got wrestled into doing an event, because we're free labor, right? Because culinary students are free labor. And this woman next looks over at me and goes, "So when do we get a break?" I'm like, we've only been here 30 minutes. We probably get a break when we're done. And she just was flabbergasted that we were going to stand there for 6 hours. And I think, I mean, definitely coming out of a bake shop or coming out of kitchens, you knew that it was going to be hard,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
for sure.
So you did the 2-year program, associate's degree in baking pastry, and you made Peter grueling, and it made all the difference.
It made a difference. I mean, truthfully, like my first professional experience in working with chocolate was my externship. So at the time, I know things have definitely changed at the CIA in recent years, but at the time, between the 2 years of the program, you stop, you take 5 or 6 months, and you go out and you work. And I went to work at Chocolatiers in New York City. And
go big or go home, Brian. That's what
well,
they always say. You know, what the hell? I'm going to move to the city. I'm going to go work for Chocolatiers.
yeah. So I mean, I had to nag them a little bit to let me in, because I think they had some some issues with previous externs. But I really wanted to be in New York City, and at that time I had like quite a serious interest in chocolate, but really it was because my girlfriend and now wife was working in New York City, and I just really wanted to be down there for that time. So yeah, I kind of snuck my way into that externship with Chocolatiers. And then after coming back to school, after the externship, that's when I took the chocolate and confections class. That's where I met Peter. That's where I made my first batch of chocolate with him. After a little bit of nagging, he showed me how to put together a very crude, rudimentary ball mill in a panning machine, in a orange coating pan with some stainless steel bearings, and we made some chocolate. And
I'm sure it was quiet. I'm sure, like, it made no noise at all, and like everybody in the hallway is like, "What the F are you guys doing in there?"
Yeah, and we were using whatever nibs the storeroom at the school had, which I don't think had a mark of origin. They had probably been sitting on a shelf in that years. They tasted like cardboard, but we made this batch of chocolate, and it was objectively bad chocolate. It was terrible, but it was my crappy chocolate. So that's kind of like where I got started with like the idea of. I think by that time I had already like really fallen in love with the idea of working with chocolate. But I wanted to like learn more about the process of making chocolate, and that's sort of like what sparked interest, and eventually like things spiraled out of control, and we started this business.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because like I come at it from like a full pastry side, right? And like did pastry for a while, and then started doing confection, and so I'm later to the game on like the concept of like beans becoming chocolate, other than I got it, right? Because I worked for a company that we sold chocolate. So, I mean, I understood it, but it wasn't like, I wasn't enamored with it,
Yeah.
But like you listen to people like you and other people in the bean to bar side, and it was like the light goes off, right? Oh, and whether it's a rudimentary ball mill or, I'm in a stone melange for 4 days, the first time I made chocolate, but you're right, it's mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of cool. So, I mean, so you had to make chocolate between that ball mill with Peter and like opening fruition, though, right?
I made a few batches. So, so after I graduated from the CIA, took a little bit of time off. I went back to New York City for a little while. I was offered a job at the CIA as a sous chef to one of the instructors with Francisco Migoya in the Apple Pie Bakery Cafe.
Another punk. Like, they're all just like, they're all wannabes there at the CIA. Peter Grueling, Migoya, they're all just Vaccaro.
Yeah. So, I mean,
they don't know anything.
Yeah, I jumped at that opportunity and spent 2 years living in Hyde Park and working at the school. I mean, really amazing, formative experience. Working with Chef Migoya, who's, I mean, we all know is an incredible guy and an incredible talent. And during that time, I was, I knew eventually I wanted to work in chocolate. I wanted to make chocolate. I wanted to have my own confectionery business. And I was starting to think, like, what would we do that would be unique among confectionery businesses? And because of like my little experience in making chocolate from bean to bar, I thought, well, what if whatever this business becomes, it's a confectionery business, but we're also making all of our own chocolate. So that sort of was like the foundation of like the spark that ultimately came fruition.
So I got a question about that. If somebody came to you today and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about opening a bean to bar confection business," would you tell them to do it?
Depends how much pain you want to put yourself through. I mean, it's difficult. I think doing anything well is difficult, and but put the effort in, put the time in, put the experimentation, and yeah, you could be good at it.
Well, that wasn't what I meant. I just meant that, like, I think, when obviously I work with confectioners and I work with bean to bar, and there aren't a lot of people that are doing both like you guys are, right? And there's a lot of pain on both sides,
Sure.
right? There's a lot of development time. There's a lot of, like, you can't throw your chocolate company under the bus,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like, I do, unless it's my chocolate, right? In which case, and I can't throw my equipment company under the bus, which you have on occasion.
Yeah.
He says with love and tongue in cheek, but I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, if it's, the more you make, the more it's you on the hook for it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it presents like a lot more difficulty, but at the same time, it also opens up a lot of new possibilities. Because if we can make the chocolate that we think we might want to use in X confection, or as as the shell for an enrobed piece or something. So or if we're looking for a particular flavor, we can make the chocolate that we're hoping to use. We don't have to search it. I mean, that's really downplaying like the difficulty in doing something like that, but it does allow us like a fair amount of freedom and leeway to make something unique that's uniquely ours. And that some of our confectionery products, like I could give you the exact formula and tell you exactly how to make it, but it's never going to be exactly the same as what Fruition makes, because you are not using the same chocolate. So
and you can't use the same chocolate, right? I mean, like, it's funny. I was talking. Eric Case is on the call, and Eric, right? From somewhere along the way, you've met Eric,
yeah.
who's with Cho now. And Eric and I had I don't know, what was supposed to be a 2-minute conversation the other day. It ended up being like an hour and a half, and we were talking a little bit about that whole piece, right? Like, my first baking job was at a Ritz-Carlton, and my chef was like, "Give him the recipe, just give it to him.
Yeah.
I don't care, just like." Here you go, because the complexity of figuring out how to make one pie out of that recipe was nearly impossible. And we were using Pulgar butter, and they weren't going to use Pulgar butter at home, and like all this stuff, right? And when we write recipes here in this kitchen, like, obviously my job is to give them to people, but if you don't use the same chocolate, I'm not guaranteeing you're going to get the same result,
Yeah.
right? And at least, but I can spec a chocolate, right? I can tell you it's, Valrhona, blubbity blub, or Calibo, whatever. But if you give somebody that recipe, you're not going to sell them. You're probably not selling them the chocolate. Well, maybe you are.
Yeah, in fact, we have been doing that. I mean, we're not selling a lot of chocolate in bulk to other confectionery companies, although we have, and I've no issue with doing that. But we do sell our chocolate to quite a few restaurants, bakeries. There's a really well-known bakery up here called Bread Alone, like one of the first sort of like French, like European style artisanal bakeries in the United States, is just down the road from us.
Right.
And they buy lots of our chocolate right now to use in their pastries. And there are other restaurants and cafes around here that use.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's cool. I mean, I'm saying it's complex. the whole concept of doing what you're doing. But I mean, you're right. It does create this kind of like synergy, and it's all yours. Like everything belongs to you guys,
Yeah.
you know, versus, you know, something that I make, right, where sometimes I'm using my own peanut bar chocolate, but not a lot. And I'm cobbling together, you know, what I think are the best flavors. And I have to go out and try things where you can create the flavor you want in theory.
In theory, yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of it is sort of, you know, we may have this idea of where we want to go, but along the way, it's definitely going to change and evolve over time. And you know, we may wind up with something, you know, better than we expect, so, or something worse, and that's kind of
Never worse, Brian. It's always better. I mean, but you're right. I mean, that raises. I mean, you've got to source beans, right? There's all this stuff there, right? You then have to roast beans, which we all know you can screw up at least 4 different ways.
Sure.
And then you got to winnow, which I think people kind of like forget is how important winnowing is, right? Winnowing's in addition to the profitability side, right? I mean, winnowing is kind of where you make your money to a
Sure.
certain degree, but it's also where if you don't winnow well, your product's not going to be good, you know.
Yeah.
And then you've got to actually make the chocolate, right? So there's all this stuff in the way, not even counting the fact that there's all that stuff that happens before you even touch a bean, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, everything on the ground in the country of origin of the cacao. I mean, we're working with some places we're buying direct, but primarily we're using transparent trade partners like Uncommon Cacao and Meridian to get our beans, and that's where we're getting most of them from. And it's a great, consistent, reliable supply of beans for the most part. So,
has the last 9 months in COVID affected that at all?
for us, it really doesn't seem to have changed all that much in the past 8 months.
14 years.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it feels like a few years at this point.
But so everybody knows, because I tell people, like, we had a little phone interview yesterday, just a little pre-interview. We did a little thing this morning, and you told me you were surprised about how well you've weathered the storm. So thus far, is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, in March, I was convinced that we were going to have to find the best way to shut down, to close up our business. I mean, I was convinced of that. Thankfully, I was wrong, and this is why. I mean, we didn't really cover this, but my wife Dahlia, who's the CEO of the company and my partner in the business, we work really well together.
Former New York City girlfriend.
Former New York City girlfriend. We work well together because I'm probably like the most pessimistic person around, and she balances me out because she's incredibly optimistic and always looking for solutions. Whereas in March, April, I thought, like, this is it, this is the end. And thankfully, we found creative ways to keep going, and we're on online sales, and we closed both of our retail stores. We went from our highest number of employees. We were hiring very aggressively in the beginning of 2020. We had more employees. I mean, we're still an impossibly small company for the amount of chocolate that we make. But at the time, we had more employees than ever. We went down to 2 full-time employees April, May. And then started hiring people back and bringing people back on in June, and slowly started rebuilding the team. But we were focusing mostly on building our online sales. We opened a to-go window, so all of our sales at our our factory retail store are through a to-go window. Nobody. Yeah, well, that creates another problem. You know, so much of what we do, we're in you know the middle of the woods in upstate New York, in a very rural area, and we're selling 10, 12, $14 bars of chocolate. And a lot of what we relied on was people coming into the store, tasting our chocolate, talking to us, learning about it. And now there's no sampling, like, so unless it's an existing customer who like already understands like what we do and what makes it unique, it's a bit of it's a bit of a commitment to to buy our chocolate. But we started doing really fun things over the summer. So we started making and serving ice cream. We started a small cafe program, so we're doing coffee and espresso drinks and stuff like that. So like those things have like really helped attract people to our actual store, in addition to our retail business, our online business, and our wholesale business picked back up after those few months of uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, I gave you my opinion about that, right? Like when we talked yesterday, like I think that we all need that treat, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not, you know, in New York, we're not going out to dinner the same way we were going out to dinner. We're not, whatever it is, you know, I don't know. I haven't been in a grocery store in 9 months, so I'm not the right person to talk to, but like, you know, we're not doing the things that we used to do, and we're still looking for that one thing that today that's going to like make me kind of think it's really not all that bad. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky that you know, it's comfort, and yeah, people. I mean, I think we make a product that people kind of like feel that they need right now, and it brings a little bit of joy and comfort in, you know, this terribly absurd world.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always used the term that chocolate's really visceral, like. It's a memory from when we were 5 and the first time we like snuck into our mom's cupboard and took that chocolate bar, or it's that, for me, it's that chocolate chip cookie on that airplane that time that, you know, saved the whole experience. I'll tell you the story later.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's different things like that. And like chocolate weaves its way through our experience, right? And, you know, I mean, you're on the ground floor of that. In a lot of ways, right? I mean, back to that whole complexity of your business. I mean, you're roasting beans and you're cooking caramel.
Yep.
Right? It doesn't really, the consumer at the end of the day, that kind of doesn't matter to them, other than you're able to give them the experience that they want, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you've grown a lot, right? I mean, I was there. When was I there? I don't even know anymore. I have no clue when it is. I know it's 2020. It's like November.
It was late 2018.
Got it.
Fall winter 2018 when you came to train us on that equipment.
Right, but you were putting in another big piece of equipment at the time that was going to like triple your output.
Yeah, I mean, it's right behind me. I'm in our production space. So right behind me is the second large universal McIntyre that we got. So yeah.
Look at me. I was like trying to like be all like coy and like not tell everybody your secrets. And you're like, it's a universal McIntyre. It holds, 47 kilos. There
are no secrets.
How many, but that's the question. How many kilos are you going to make this year, do you think, of chocolate?
We'll probably do, I don't know off the top of my head, but probably 20 tons.
That's a lot.
Yeah. It's probably a little bit less than that, but yeah, that's what we were hoping for. I'm not sure exactly right now, but yeah, yeah. Yes, we have grown a lot over the years. I mean, we started just like a lot of companies start out, a cocoa town. We were making
How big?
60-pound batches, and then
3 days?
We went a little bit slower than that, but yeah, so 4 or 5 days,
So like 60 kilos a week, maybe.
Yeah. And year number 2, we got a second one. Year number 3, we got a third one, and then that didn't seem to be very sustainable, and I wasn't really thrilled with that style of machine. I wanted something with a little bit more control and a little bit bigger capacity. So did a bunch of research. We bought our first McIntyre Universal 250 kilo machine, and that was like learning how to make chocolate all over again, and it really was. And then a couple years ago, we added this monster to us, like this 500 kilos. So in early 2011, we were making 60-pound batches. Now our largest batch size is about 1,000 pounds. So yeah, we've grown a little bit, but it's still like a very very hands-on, very small, very there's a person, there's a human being like at every step of the process.
Yeah, and I know the answer to this question, but would you do it all over again the same way?
Yeah. I mean, we started the business with our savings and a small loan from some family, and we just like very, very slowly and organically grew the business. And then a few years ago we did make this big jump. We took out some low interest loans and made this significant, at least significant for us, jump in production. But it's been like a very like sort of measured and organic growth. Like the goal for me is never been to be a huge chocolate company. It's never been to make as much chocolate as we possibly could. It's really the goal is to make the best possible chocolate we can. And because I've been so fortunate to attract and maintain like a really incredible core team of people to help me do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we forget that sometimes, right? Companies are built on people. I don't think we forget it, but I mean, I think it's easy to dismiss that.
No, I mean, I'll sing their praises like all day long. I mean, we're like I said, we're an almost impossibly small team of people for the amount of chocolate that we make, and we just really couldn't do anything that we're doing without the really dedicated core team of people.
But your team cares an awful lot. When I was there, but I've also run into them at events, and hey, we're having a problem with this, and we need it to be better. Not because it's holding up my output, but because it just needs to be better for our customer. There was a conversation, I think, at the Northwest Chocolate Festival.
Yeah, I think, you probably talked to my head chocolatier, Laura, who I think is listening in now. She's on maternity leave with like a week and a half, 2-week-old little girl. So,
like I told you though, you need to be a tougher boss. No maternity leave at the holiday season. You need to put the foot down and say, back to work. No, I'm kidding. Laura, I'm kidding. But I mean, when we have people that care about us, right? I mean, I talk a lot about my assistant, and my assistant cares, I feel like sometimes more than I do, right? And she makes our department better. So your people make your department, make your world better. See, she's acknowledging that she didn't plan well. But who do you look at in the industry right now that, I mean, obviously they're competitors to a certain degree, but like who else do you think is making some really great stuff right now, either on the confection side or on bean to bar?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Some of the people that I am closest friends with are like my direct competitors in some ways, but I never really look at it like that. I think the Dick Taylor guys are making exceptional stuff, like top to bottom. Like the design of their packaging to the finished chocolate, I think is just like as good as it could possibly get. One of my close friends from Culinary School, Josh Rosen, has Charm School Chocolate down in Baltimore, doing all like all vegan chocolate and confections, and I mean, knocking it out of the park. And I mean, those are two that come to mind and there are like so many more.
Right. No, I'm just curious. I mean, like, I think that I get asked that kind of question a lot too about even confection people, and it's hard. They like come up with like 2 or 3, because I think there's so many people doing really great stuff right now. I mean, the level, chocolate and confection has definitely gotten better, you know, in the last 10, 15 years in this country, right? And it keeps getting better.
And I brought props on the confection side, and another one of my dear friends that I did a collaboration with, Chris Curtin from McClot.
He's a punk.
Some of the coolest like confectioners.
He's totally punk. He's worse than Magoya and Grueling. Just so you know, that's how I feel about Chris Curtin. He was texting me this morning while we were talking, like asking me questions. I'm just like, Chris, leave me alone.
Oh, really?
No, Chris and I are good friends. So
yeah.
What do you do with Chris?
He and I have become good friends over the years too, and we collaborated on this chocolate bar, which I think is one of the best chocolates we've ever made. And I think it's not only because the beans are super special, but because it was him and me and to a lesser extent some of my team here, like putting our heads together to like work on this chocolate bar, because you know we're up here in this little bubble, and I have an incredible head chocolate maker. So like we talk a lot about like what the finished chocolate we're like hoping to create is, but sometimes having like somebody on the outside come in like with a different perspective is really valuable.
Yeah. So is that bar available from you or him or both of you? Show it again.
I have about a dozen bars like in my little vault here.
Okay.
That was the last of like sort of my allotment. I'm not sure if Chris has any left, but if he does, try to get your hands on some, or I'll send you one if you want. But.
No, I was just curious if anybody listening wanted to buy one. See, I was like trying to sell stuff for you there, Bryan.
Oh.
Speaking of that, so
yeah.
everything's available. Everything's available at Fruition. I forget what it is. It's fruitionwhat.com.
It's fruitionchocolate.com or tastefruition.com or fruitionchocolateworks.com. They'll all get you to the same place.
And like everything's available online right now, ready for Christmas purchasing, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm doing the marketing for you because Dahlia would have been better at that. Dahlia would have been like ready to go.
Yeah, I'm better in the kitchen, not talking to people. She's much better at the, you know, running a business and keeping the lights on and paying the bills and making sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's an interesting, you know, I'm not sure my wife and I could work together. I love her to death more than anything, but I don't know how that would all work out. But I think a lot of times I see confectioners and chocolate makers having to make a choice about who they are in the business, right? Are they the sales and marketing team? Are they the production team? You know, and you guys have that advantage where you both have kind of nestled into your spot and you're good at it. Right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I mean, on that front, like the challenge is really not it. The challenge is trying to not take work home with us. Although that does and kind of has to happen because we're also juggling our almost 4-year-old daughter who's not in nursery school right now. So we're trying to both of us run the business and have, you know, sort of like normal, whatever the hell normal is now, like home life, and you know, tag team the childcare. So a lot.
Hey, 4 years old is old enough to sort beans. Double, stick,
True.
double, good, 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 stick, stick, good, 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 good. No, she can do that. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of these days. Right now, with her, the challenge is keeping her Halloween candy out of her mouth. You know, like sort of allowing her like one per day, which becomes two per day, becomes, can I third? And it's like, how do you say no?
I know they're so damn cute at that age, right? I mean, no, but does she know the difference between like commercial chocolate and good chocolate yet?
I watched her eat a Snickers yesterday, and she seemed to like it. I mean, I had my yearly Snickers, or yearly Twix, like around Halloween. No, I mean, she likes our toasted white chocolate. She likes our milk chocolate. Um, but she'll also like scarf down a Hershey's bar, and it's all.
Yeah, but I'll do that too. Like I'm the bad person to like sort of scoff at that because I I have a Kit Kat bar problem. And everybody that sort of tunes on a regular basis knows this whole saga. And like, I like will eat my weight in Kit Kat bars. And there's some in the house all the time because I will still eat that in addition to the fact that I think the last s'mores I made, or one of the s'mores I made this summer was with your milk chocolate.
Oh, nice.
Right. But like, I, I think they all have a place.
Total.
Is that fair?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, like we make fancy, delicious, expensive chocolate, but there's, I love a Reese's peanut butter cup once in a
Well,
while.
that was going to be my question. So, like, because I asked this question to everybody. Like, so you're headed out on a road trip, and you run into the gas station, and you buy the bag of chips and the bottle of soda, and there's a candy bar. What candy bar is it? Is it a Reese's?
For me, it's usually that a Reese's peanut butter cup or Snickers.
Yeah. I don't know. They have a place. Like, back to Eric. I mean, Eric took this as an experiment to go out and try mass market chocolate, and he's like, they're all crap. And I'm like, they have a place
Totally. Yeah.
somewhere. Like when I'm watching, a really crappy movie, I don't want like good chocolate with that tub of popcorn, right? I want my peanut M&Ms with my tub of popcorn.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing at all wrong with it.
Yeah. So what's next for Fruition and you? I mean, like it's been a big year, like, global pandemic, get rid of all your employees, hire all your employees back, buy a house, deal with a 4-year-old, what's next for Fruition?
I don't know. Let's shoot for like surviving until the end of the year, maybe. I'll call that a success. I mean, like I said before, we're not in this constant mindset of like must expand, must continue to grow the business. Like if we can find a plateau where we're able to make enough chocolate to meet our demand and maybe a little bit more. We're able to make better chocolate. We're able to pay our employees fairly and keep everybody as happy as possible. And we're able to maintain like a really positive place to work. That's success for me. I mean, we don't need to grow for the sake of growth. I mean, we get asked the question. I get asked the question a lot, like, how big do you want to grow this business? And like that's a really difficult question to answer. It's not like number of tons of chocolate per year. It's really like I want to continue to grow the business as much as we can, so long as we can maintain or exceed the quality of the product that we're making, and keep like I said, keep our employees happy, keep our customers.
Yeah, but I'm sure that was a question like that when McIntyre asked, right? So you built that new thing in, like, how much chocolate do you think you need? What's your capacity going to be in 5 years, right? And they want to design a system around that, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure we asked that question, like, well, how many bars do you want to make?
Yeah.
When we put that molding line in, I think I asked a question that today I got an email, like somebody that was looking for somebody to co-man for him. I'm like, how many do you need to make? I don't know how many I need to make. I'm like, I don't know how to help you, right? I mean, there's a balancing act
Sure.
with growth. I'm assuming that, like, as you guys think about, you said you borrowed money for that McIntyre. Well, you got to pay for it, right? I mean, the bank wants to know how much more chocolate are you going to sell when you borrow
Yeah.
$50,000 or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just kind of like saying, I mean, I think that's the hard part about that question.
Question. I mean, like, it's like every new piece of equipment that we put in, every bottleneck we solve in the process kind of like creates another bottleneck somewhere else. And right now it's finding more great people to work with us. That's the main challenge. Like as I said, like, machine's not running right now, but we're able to like just barely squeak by and make sure we're able to keep up with the demand right now. But our equipment's not really a limiting factor right now. Like we're
Right.
able to make more chocolate than we are right now.
Yeah, it was said to me, like, we had, I don't know, some consultant I talked to somewhere along the way said the bottom line is you never want your bottleneck to be sales,
Yeah.
right? Like, you don't want to be able to, you don't want the bottleneck, you don't want to be stopping your equipment because you can't sell it, right? If you're stopping your equipment because you can't package it, or you can solve those problems.
Yeah.
But ultimately, your bottleneck does move to sales, right? Because you guys could invest $500,000 in that plant and produce triple the amount of chocolate you're producing right now, hypothetically,
Yep.
right?
Sure.
But then it's Dahlia's problem and not yours anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we're incredibly fortunate that we've never really had an issue selling chocolate that we make.
Right.
I'm supremely confident that if we were able to make more chocolate, we'd be able to sell it. I mean, we're doing a good job of like keeping everything like just barely in stock, but everything's sort of like teetering on the edge. So yeah,
I think the big guys would tell you that's on-demand inventory, and that's exactly how you're supposed to be. That you're running it like Honda.
Yeah.
There's a term for it, like Kanban or something. I don't know. I'm a chocolatier. Like I squeaked by my undergraduate degree like barely. So.
Same. No, if I knew owning a business was a lot of like having to know how to run a business, that maybe I may have not done this. Like I was like this naive, 28-year-old who was like, oh, if I could just like start making chocolate. Well, then what? Like, got to sell it, got to keep the, got to pay the bills. I'm like,
yeah, New York State wants their taxes.
there's that too. So,
cool. Hey, so I did tell you this was going to fly by, or you told me it was going to fly by. You were like all stressed about it, like it'll be like over in like 2 minutes, and you're like, well, yeah, probably. Well, it's been like, other than the technical difficulties, it's been like 45 minutes. So, and I promise you, we were only going to take 45 minutes. So, Bryan, you guys run, like from the outside and from having been in your plant, I mean, and knowing you guys run a real class operation. And I know personally that you're really committed to putting the best possible products out there, from, making the chocolate through to, what does it look like to what does it taste and all those things. So, I mean, I think from where I sit, you guys are doing a really super nice job.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate that. That's the goal here, like to, try to make something really special.
So I'll end with this because this is your plug. What's the best thing right now that you guys are selling?
I'll pull out one of my other props here.
I set you up for that. That was like a softball. I laid it up.
So one of our best-selling chocolate bars is a bourbon aged dark milk. It's made with a locally distilled bourbon from Tuttletown Spirits. It's the first whiskey distillery in New York State since Prohibition, and they make some really excellent stuff. And then this, which is if you know what our packaging normally looks like, this is like definitely like veering out of the norm. This is a limited release. We only made, I don't even know, a little over 1,000 bars maybe, but it's a cinnamon maple bourbon bar. So it's another dark milk, no cane sugar. It's all maple.
Perfect for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it like hits all those like really great like fall autumny notes.
Still available online?
It is, yeah.
There you go. That's my plug. See, I'm helping, Brian. I'm like doing my part to like, kind of like, All right. So, because Eric's asking a question, and I always like defer to one of his. What's more important, consistency or flavor? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. I think we've dialed in most of our like actual chocolate making processes that we can pretty closely replicate the same chocolate batch to batch. I mean, maybe one of us at the shop will notice like slight differences, but I would almost guarantee that customer tasting this would like never notice. But yeah, I mean, yes to both. Flavor is also incredibly important. Like this cinnamon maple bourbon bar is kind of fun, and this is what I really enjoy doing. Is like this is something that we'll never be able to replicate. It's a blend of probably 10 different origins of cacao, like little things that I just been saving for different projects, and I wound up roasting a little bit of each, and then that went into this batch, and I could look back and see like exactly what's in it, but it's nearly impossible that we'll ever be able to replicate that, and I think that's really unique. Like this bar will only exist for these 1,000 bars, and then never again. Same with the collaboration with Chris at Eclat. Love if we could get some more of those beans, but it's unlikely that anytime soon we will. And even if we do, it's going to be a completely different bar. So,
right.
But yeah, like our core line of chocolates, we're always trying to make each batch a little bit better. But again, it's any improvements we make are probably so imperceptible to the consumer that you'd never notice. So we're even though it's always going to be like consistent in the same bar, like we're always like tweak it and make it a little bit better every time.
So the answer to Eric is yes.
Yes, sure.
All right. Well, Brian, thanks a bunch. Go make some chocolate. Have a great holiday next week and a good holiday season for the company, and appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, Brian. Thanks so much.
All right, we'll talk later. Thanks, Brian.